The 80s were full of surprises when it came to animated shows, and The Centurions is one of the most underrated shows of the era, especially with its concept that was ahead of its time. I think most people actually became familiar with Centurions during the rerun at Cartoon Network, but it began way back in the mid-80s as a 5-part miniseries that soon expanded into a 60-episode series. The story was about the cyborg mad scientist Doc Terror, who sought to conquer the Earth and turn the inhabitants into robotic slaves, and the heroic Centurions foiled his evil plans. The cool weapons, science trivia, fine animation, and an engaging story made this a perfect animated series. I wish it got more attention than it did. In this video, I'll dive into the lesser-known insane facts about the show that should be a treat for everyone who enjoyed the series. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Originally, there was no plan to create so many episodes. Before the show was expanded into so many episodes, the first draft only premiered in 1986 as a 5-part miniseries. This was the perfect introduction to the core narrative of the show, the characters and the high-tech action. The stage was set nicely for the story to be expanded, where the elite soldiers equipped with cybernetic exoframes could call down external weapon systems from their orbiting space station, Skyvault, to fight Doc Terror. The miniseries received an overwhelmingly positive review, and the show was soon expanded to a full-blown series that had a total of 65 episodes in just one season. The expansion largely covered various global and extraterrestrial threats, and we got a glimpse of the true fighting skills of the Centurions, who could fight across land, sea, and air missions. Now, the approach to start off a miniseries and then turn it into a full-blown series wasn't common during the 1980s, and it just shows how confident the makers were about the appeal of the series that would suit episodic storytelling. If you look back, the 5-part miniseries will serve as a detailed pilot and foundation for the larger franchise, and it's not surprising that the show developed a cult fan base over the years, even though it had a rather short run.
Pulse cannon's out of power. I'll use stealth.
A few comic book legends like Jack Kirby and Gil Kane were involved with Centurions. I don't think that the likes of Jack Kirby and Gil Kane need any introduction for those who love comic books. These iconic figures in the comic book world were known for their groundbreaking work on major superhero stories, and their visual styles have inspired an entire generation of artists. Both Jack Kirby and Gil Kane were involved with Centurions, and they contributed heavily to the design and conceptual development of the show. This is probably one of the main reasons behind the futuristic look and mechanical complexity of the characters, creatures, and technology in the series. The character designs were also helped by Norio Shioyama, who translated the ideas of Kirby and Kane into the animation style that you see in the show. The larger-than-life villains like Doc Terror and his cyborg forces have Jack Kirby written all over them, and it was a smart move for the producers to involve them, because they could bring the comic book level artistry and storytelling depth to the animated series. Kirby also reportedly contributed storyboard ideas and other creative concepts, and he was instrumental in mentoring some of the younger artists who were working on the series. It was a Japanese-American production. The show was produced by the American animation company Ruby Spears, that's known for making many other popular animated shows during the 80s. However, the show was animated in Japan by Sunrise, which resulted in the unique style and quality of the Centurions. Nippon Sunrise's Studio 7 was yet to be famous for their legendary mecha and sci-fi anime projects, but they clearly showed promise when the work was outsourced to them. The unique collaboration brought together Western storytelling and character design with Japanese animation craftsmanship, and the end result is for you to see and judge. The action sequences were extremely polished, and you couldn't ask for more detailed mechanical designs that stood out when compared to many contemporary American cartoons. That being said, the cross-Pacific production model was common during the 1980s, and as for Centurions, it helped fuse the American superhero and toy-centric approach with the anime style of mechanical design and fluid action. I still admire the distinct futuristic look and feel of the series, and many of these elements were inspired by Japanese mecha anime and tailored for American children's television.
Now I'm mad. Jake, don't.
Centurions was originally created for a toy line promotion. Many of the finest 80s and 90s cartoons were originally intended to be tools for toys and merchandise sales, and Centurions weren't any different. It was closely tied to a toy line by Kenner Products, which was one of the leading manufacturers during the 1980s, known for hits like Star Wars action figures and the Superpowers collection. The show's concept and the characters were specifically created to promote their Centurions action figures, and these figures were quite unique and larger than the typical action figures of the time. They had several ports for attaching a variety of interchangeable assault weapon systems, and the design was loved by kids. In fact, some of the things that featured in the show, like the exoframe suits, were directly reflected in the toy accessories, and the toy line included all 3 original Centurions. Even though the action figures were of great quality, they faced some tough competition from toy brands like Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, Transformers, and others, which limited its commercial success. Luckily for us, we got the perfect animated series in the form of promotional content, and thankfully the makers didn't compromise on the story for toy-selling purposes. Some renowned writers were part of the team. When you look at the depth and quality of the storytelling in the show, it's quite obvious that some experts' hands were hired for the job. Yes, the series was scripted by a team of prolific and well-known writers in the industry, and this includes the likes of Michael Reeves, who's known for his work on the iconic Batman, the animated series, and Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Mark Scott-Zicree and Larry DiTio, known for writing He-Man and Thundercats, were also on board. Even the Punisher co-creator Jerry Conway was a member of this team, and having such seasoned writers showed in the swift narrative of Centurions. While the show was actually intended for toy sales, the scripts were often complex and explored themes of teamwork and technological ethics, and the episodes combined action with well-structured plots. I believe that it's the involvement of such seasoned writers that provided for such sophisticated stories and engaged both older viewers as well as children. The landscape of 1980s cartoons was rather crowded, and Centurions could hold its own in this tough competition courtesy of these talented writers. Centurions operated from different bases and locations. This further adds to the depth of the plot and the futuristic world building that the show intends to explore. The Centurions operate from multiple secret bases and locations all around the world that support their high-tech missions and logistics. Their primary base is Skyvault, which is an orbiting space station where mission control and command are centralized. On Earth, they have a secret underground base called Centrum, which is cleverly disguised beneath a New York City bookstore, and access to the Centrum is via a hidden railway car. The covert nature of the team is maintained through this location, and also their underwater base Sea Lab, where advanced weapon systems are developed. Even during the final part of the series, a new location was introduced called the Centurion Academy, which served as a training ground for the heroes. All these just add to the layered sci-fi ambiance of the series, and the diversity in setting provides a rich backdrop for the underrated sci-fi animated series.
Max Ray, Brilliant Sea Operations Commander.
The main characters had alternate names. It's not unheard of that the names of major characters in animated shows get changed at the last minute. During the early development stages, the main characters underwent several name variations before their final iconic names were fixed. For instance, Max Ray, the Sea Operations Commander, was considered under names like Max Proteus, Jack Finn, and Sharky Finn. Even the final name Ray is fitting for someone who's a sea specialist because it evokes the imagery of a stingray. All the alternate names reflected the elemental and operational specialties of the individuals. Jake Rockwell was originally called Nat Stone, Terry Noth, and Butch Morin, and the final name Rockwell suggests toughness that is associated with the character. As for Ace McCloud, the air operations expert, the earlier names that were thought of were Harrison McCloud, Bert Sky, and Anthony Flight, reflecting his job description. Even the villain Doc Terror was supposed to be called Crusher and Dead Splitter, but perhaps these names were considered to be a bit too harsh for the children.
Energy Specialist Rex Charger and Infiltration Specialist John Thunder.
2 Centurions were added to the team midway. The original Centurions team consisted of 3 main members, Max Ray, Jake Rockwell, and Ace McCloud. However, with the expansion of the storyline and the toy line, the franchise extended beyond the original trio. 2 additional Centurions were added in order to diversify the talents of the team. One of them was Rex Charger, who was an energy specialist and inventor. He was known for his expertise in electrical systems, and he brought technical innovations to the team's efforts. This also allowed the show to include energy-themed weapons and gadgets that were handled by Rex. The other new member was John Thunder, and he was an Apache infiltration expert and stealth specialist. His character represented the Native American heritage, and his addition enhanced the team's tactical moves during various missions. Much of the show narrative was always focused on aspects of teamwork and various skills coming together, and the new members of the Centurions strengthened this further. If the show continued, the writers had planned to add another Centurion, Ace's space specialist brother Vic. Why was Centurions cancelled so soon? Given how enriched the quality of the narrative was, we all expected Centurions to last much longer than it did. Like some other unfortunate shows during the time, Centurions got an untimely cancellation, largely because of its lack of commercial success. As I've mentioned already in this video, the primary target of the show was to sell toys and action figures, and the toy line struggled to capture the market. The action figures were more expensive than the competitors' toys, and when Centurions was released, the market was already saturated with some high-quality action figures. The show also struggled to maintain high viewership ratings, and it failed to secure renewed broadcasting deals. The 80s animated series market was extremely competitive, and there was no room for a show struggling with viewership. Maybe the scientific and educational elements pushed away a section of the viewers, and many sought pure entertainment from a Saturday morning cartoon. Yes, with time, the show developed a commendable cult following, but none of that happened when it was actually airing, leading to the abrupt cancellation. Did you know that Centurions has a DC connection? When Centurions was first created, it had no prior DC connection, but the publication of a comic book adaptation changed that in quick time. After the initial success of the show, DC Comics came up with a miniseries adaptation of Centurions in the United States. The intention of the comic strip was to capitalize on the popularity of the show and the toy line by bringing the whole setup into the comic book medium. The DC comic book run was rather brief, and it was only a 3-issue limited series that offered the fans some adventures, featuring the original Centurions trio. What I liked about the comic series was how it explored the backstories of the characters and delved more into the details of the futuristic world that they lived in. The British markets also saw different comic adaptations, and if the show enjoyed more success, then maybe the comic book series would have been expanded as well. Is there no conventional military or police in this world? This is a question that has often bothered me, especially because of how there was no response to Doc Terror's large-scale attacks. It was always up to the Centurions, as the elite group, to fight these threats. For some reason, there was never any conventional military or police force to handle Doc Terror, and one of the reasons behind this could be that the world's money was tied up in the expensive Centurions program. There was never any mention of any conventional military, and the wider implication was that the Centurions were the defenders of the Earth. The original show was supposed to be set in a dystopian future. This has been revealed courtesy of Kenner's employees and archives, and the big secret about Centurions is that it was originally considered to be set in a dystopian future. The early plans for the show called it Ring of Fire, and the story involved the volcanoes of the Pacific Ocean region erupting and turning the US into a stone wasteland. Dr. Severad Ram would then use genetic engineering to merge with the supercomputer brain Syntax, and he would try to destroy all life. The opposing team would be from the Army, Navy, and Air Force, who would fight back. There was another concept called United We Stand, where the villain was named Half Mad, who attempted to steal the military supercomputer Syntax to create his own world to rule. While these were both interesting ideas, I think that the final concept that we saw in the show was the best of them all. Centurions had an unexpected Magnum PI connection. If you're familiar with Magnum PI, you will immediately identify the similarity between Max Ray and the titular character of Magnum PI. Max Ray was based on him, and the resemblance is uncanny. At the same time, Ray resembles Olympic gold medalist swimmer Mark Spitz. Aside from this, Roger E. Mosley, who played Theodore Calvin, the helicopter pilot in the crime drama, provided voice work for the Centurions animated series. He lent his voice to the character Jetstreak, and it just goes to show how live-action actors sometimes contributed heavily to the animated show of that era.
I can exploit this lost world for my purposes.
Men behind the music and voice work in the show. The show wouldn't have been the same without the perfect team of voice actors, and they perfectly suited music to add the ambiance. The theme music and score was composed by Udi Harpaz, who was a familiar name in many other animated shows during the 80s and 90s. I'm still a fan of this powerful and energetic sound that matched the futuristic and action-packed tone of the show. It was a smart move to incorporate some electronic sounds common in the 80s sci-fi media, because it complemented the cybernetic theme of the series. As for voice acting, the likes of William Woodson, who worked in Super Friends and other notable shows, voiced many important characters.
Happy landing!
Sunrise Studio became a big name in the industry. Centurions was the first animated work by Sunrise Studio 7, and with time they became one of the biggest names in the industry. Even today, it's regarded as one of the most respected animation studios that was established back in 1972. However, the real slice of fame for Sunrise Studio came with its Gundam franchise, which revolutionized the mecha genre with its serious storytelling and mechanical designs. The studio was also known for being the pioneer in blending 2D and 3D animation techniques, and it maintained a tradition of high-quality animation. They also produced influential and hit shows like Code Geass and Love Live, and established connections with major companies like Bandai Namco. Centurions might not have been the hit that they were looking for, but the show surely paved the way for their future success. Marvelous verdict. If only we had a modern-day reboot. The show was far too good to be cancelled so soon, and I wish we had a modern-day reboot to expand on the lore of Centurions. The concept was ahead of its time, and even today, the story will feel relevant. With the addition of modern animation techniques and the right voice actors and writers, the show is a sure-shot recipe for a hit. But unfortunately, there's no positive news on that front. If you're someone who hasn't watched this cult classic, make sure you check it out, because there aren't too many animated shows that have so much depth and excitement in the narrative. Do let me know in the comments below what you think of the Centurions cartoon series, and also share your views on a potential reboot or remake in the near future. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.